Thursday, February 12th, 2025. Minnesota Senate Education Finance Committee will now come to order. So the teacher in me is asking you to find your seats. I'll be kicking it off today. Mr. Rarick. I'll be kicking it off today while Senator Kunish is presenting a bill. So she will be joining us again shortly, but in the meantime, we'll start our day today. So we're going to begin with a presentation from the Minnesota Department of Education. Senators, in your packets, you'll find a paper copy of the department's presentation. And whenever the testifiers are ready, you can introduce yourself for the record and begin. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair. My name is Darren Cordy. I'm an Assistant Commissioner at the Minnesota Department of Education for the Office of Student Support Services.
Good morning, Madam Chair. My name is Sami Rajab, Assistant Director of Government Relations with the Department of Education.
All right, Madam Chair, members, I'm here to present and celebrate some of the successes that we've seen in the Minnesota Free School Meals Program during its first, year and a half now of implementation. So we can start with the 10 commitments to equity, which we start all of our presentations with at MDE, prioritizing equity and improving conditions for learning. This program does help to address food insecurity, which can be a barrier to learning for many students. By providing free meals, the program helps to ensure that all students are able to focus on their studies and reach their full potential. So the Minnesota Free School Meals was signed into law by Governor Tim Walz on March 17th, 2023. Because we had that head start, we were able to get the program up and running by July 1st of 2023. So the statute that we amended was 124D111, and the program at that time was estimated to provide about $250 million in meals for schools during the 2023 school year. And just a reminder how the law worked, the legislature provided some parameters around Minnesota Free School Meals at its inception, which we think really helped set the program up for success right away. A few of those things were increasing the state meal reimbursement rates, which encouraged folks and schools to participate in the program. We required participation in the school breakfast program if you were going to participate in Minnesota Free School Meals, and also required participation in the community eligibility provision for schools with an ISP of over 62.5. And just as a reminder, the community eligibility provision, or CEP, is a federal program which provides full funding for free school meals for all students at school sites, regardless of their income level, if they have a certain percentage of students who are directly certified for free or reduced priced meals. Go to the next slide. So we saw some incredible success in terms of the uptake of Minnesota Free School Meals during its first year of implementation. We had a total of over 150 million school meals served during last school year. That includes breakfast and lunch. We had about 22 new sponsors join the meal program during the first year of implementation, and then we had several sponsors who added new sites or added joint agreement sites, which would be school districts helping, for example, helping a non-public school enter into the program. You can go to the next slide. So a little small to see on the screen here, but it really shows the comparison of total meals served before and after Free School Meals was implemented, as well as a month-by-month comparison of meals served before and after. All traditional public school districts in Minnesota participate and operate the Minnesota Free School Meals program at the majority of their school sites. Of the 181 charter schools in Minnesota, 167 participate in the Minnesota Free School Meal program, and we also have 163 non-public sponsors, which includes private schools and residential child care institutions. As you can see, we saw about a 15% increase in lunches served last school year compared to the year before, resulting in about 14 million more lunches served. And then even more impressive, we think, was the 40% increase that we saw in the number of breakfasts served, which resulted in about 13 million more breakfasts served in school year 23-24 than in 22-23. So we know certainly some of those kids were having breakfast at home before coming to school, but we think for a lot of those kids, they were probably going hungry coming into school. So seeing that huge increase in breakfast really, we do think, will be a catalyst for learning going forward. The next slide kind of talks about some of the funding and how it's benefited families over the last year. Minnesota Free School Meals saved families approximately $267 million in its first year of implementation, or about $1,000 in savings per student per year. That includes $47.7 million for breakfast and $220 million for lunches that previously would not have been covered by students, or that would not have been covered by free school meals before, so essentially was coming out of families' pockets in terms of paid meal costs. That figure, just for full information, was based on a breakfast cost of $2.25 and an estimated lunch cost of $3.50 over 180 days in a school year. I think another one of the successes that we saw with the program had to do with the targeted outreach that was conducted not just by the Minnesota Department of Education and our Nutrition Program Services team, but as well as our community partners and hunger advocacy organizations. So we were able to maximize the federal funding for the program, and this was, again, part of the design of the legislation by encouraging schools to participate in that community eligibility provision. We had continuous targeted research to schools outreach to schools who appeared to be eligible for the provision. We requested extensions from USDA, which allowed schools to have more time to apply for that CEP provision. And then lastly, we continue to perform claim audits to make sure that if new schools become eligible for CEP throughout the school year, that they don't have to wait, a full year for that data to come in. We're able to kind of see on the spot when a new school might be eligible through those audits, and then help them join into CEP in order to, once again, maximize those federal reimbursements. Once again, kind of talking about the successes of the program, obviously there's the healthy and nutritious breakfasts and lunches that are being served. Those are obvious successes with the program, but there's also a number of other successes that we're seeing as well too. One of which being that students are trying new foods, that the school menus at their school often will have items that maybe kids aren't eating at home that they're not trying, so it's a great opportunity for them to try and learn about new foods. We also know that students who are eating school meals are consuming more fruits and vegetables because the meal pattern that is required for a reimbursable meal requires at least a half a cup of a fruit or a vegetable as required as part of a reimbursable meal. So every student has to take a fruit or a vegetable serving, and once again, hopefully enjoying them and trying some new fruits and vegetables along the way. There's also the increased reimbursement that's going to schools throughout the state. We have seen increases in reimbursement and fund balances, which can lead to more jobs, more hiring, more equipment being needed and purchased, which can stimulate the economy and benefit all communities. And then last, just generally positive stories in communication about school nutrition as a whole. We're seeing a lot of positive stories in schools, about school nutrition, where families and the community are happy about this program, that they're talking about the benefits of the program. And it's just really great to see the community kind of rally around a program that they really enjoy and are happy about. So a couple of resources just to flag for you here. They're in your slides, but you can obviously see there's screenshots of our website. So we have a couple of different pages. One is the Free School Meals for Kids program that you can see here. This one is kind of more of an informational page geared towards schools that may be interested in participating, but also families or even students who might be interested in learning more about the program. So if you have constituents or folks who are reaching out with information, looking for information, we do have that available on the website. One of the helpful documents there, as well as a frequently asked questions document, document. So as we continue to get questions and learn more about the program, obviously with a big program like this, there's a number of unanticipated things that come across the table. So as we've gotten more questions and we've been able to get more clarification and answers on those from our team and from USDA as well, we've continued to build that frequently asked questions document as well. So would encourage you to check that out if you're interested. The other resource kit that we have on our website that we think might be beneficial for you all to take a look at or at least be aware of is some marketing resources. So once again, this is for schools that are interested in participating in the program, how to market the program, how to increase uptake in the program to get families interested in learning about the program. It's also tools for families or community members or who may be interested in having their school participate in the program, learning how to get them involved as well too. So these are resources that we have gathered both at MDE through Minnesota Ties, but as well as from other states who have implemented free school meals. Our school nutrition director works closely with other school nutrition directors in other states in order to pool and share resources to make sure that we're sharing the best information and getting kind of the most bang for our buck in terms of resources available for our schools. Also was asked quickly to speak to Farm to School and Farm to Early Care, which is another program that we think is showing a lot of great success, kind of one of those win-win programs that we're really excited about. Farm to School, as you can see on the slide, is a program that connects Minnesota farmers and kids by serving local food in school meals. And then there's also an educational component as well, teaching about local agriculture and education activities. This is a program that's funded through the Minnesota Department of Agriculture's Agricultural Growth, Research, and Innovation program, or AGRI program. So we work very closely in partnership with the Minnesota Department of Agriculture on this program. The Farm to School projects or Farm to Early Care projects that you might see in your communities will look different based upon the community's needs, so there's flexibility for that, but they all do need to have at least one of three components, which would be local purchasing, which is just what it sounds like, having local food that is purchased and promoted in the cafeteria at meal times. It can include snacks, it can include taste tests, or it can include local foods being included in the meals themselves. Also mentioned the education component. We have a number of schools participating in Farm to School that have incorporated local farm learning or local resource supply chain, things like that into their educational activities related to agriculture, food, health, and nutrition. And then the last component, which we've also seen some really impressive examples of, is school gardens, where this grant can be used to fund school gardens, and students can really have that hands-on experience learning how to make and grow their own fruits and vegetables, which in turn are then used in the cafeteria and in the meals that they eat. So really kind of showing that source to meal connection and helping students learn how that works. On top of those benefits and the educational benefits, there's a number of other benefits that we see for kids, farmers, and communities in the Farm to School program. Kids generally participating in schools with Farm to School programs are more willing to try new foods. They eat more fruits and vegetables per day. They tend to eat a wider variety of fruits and vegetables in general. And all of these are hopefully setting the stage for lifelong learning habits, which in turn will create long-term health benefits and hopefully lower the chances of diet-related disease in their lifespan growing up, which, in turn will help relieve some of the pressures that we have, on the state in terms of our health system as well, too. Kids in Farm to School also tend to develop a deeper understanding of where their food comes from, and that helps foster a sense of connection to their communities and local farmers in those communities. For the farmers themselves, it's a great opportunity to open up additional markets for those farmers to sell to. Many of these smaller farmers rely on income streams such as farmers markets, which may not be as reliable as a diversified business model, which includes something that's as solid as and reliable as a a school system which is going to be able to make larger, more predictable sales than you perhaps would at a farmer's market. This also makes it easier for farmers to plan ahead in terms of what they're planting, what they're harvesting, and what they're going to be able to sell, since they're able to anticipate that ahead of time through the contracts and agreements that they have with their schools. And then last but not least, there's just the positive outcomes that we see in the communities when families see where their food is coming from. They see that that food is coming from local farmers. That just helps build the authentic relationships within the community between the schools, the farmers, and those that are supporting the community, and helps strengthen those community ties. Generally, we see that about every dollar that is spent on farm to school, there's about $2.16 of local economic activity which is generated. And then this money is in turn, of course, invested into the local economy, creating local jobs and helping local businesses and communities thrive. So I believe that's all I have, Madam Chair. Happy to answer any questions you may have about free school meals or the farm to school program.
Any members with any questions or comments? No? Oh, Senator Lucero.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the presentation. I was a few minutes late, and I think you had, as I was walking in, you were mentioning some of the metrics on various aspects of the free lunch, or the free lunch program. Do you have any metrics in terms of pre and post quantities of waste that schools would throw away of the food?
Assistant Commissioner.
Sure. Madam Chair, Senator Lucero, that's not something that we track at a local level. That is something that we have. We're developing partnerships through other states who have implemented free school meals to make sure that we're reducing waste to the extent that we can, but that's not something that we measure at a statewide level.
Follow up?
Thank you. And yeah, I would appreciate if that could be looked into, because I've received, in some of the conversations that I've been having with parents and school staff, that it is their observation that there are larger, while the meals themselves are free to the students, there are larger quantities of those meals being thrown away. And it would be interesting to know if the levels of waste have increased. So again, thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Swedzinski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Two questions. One, well, first of all, thank you, whoever, there's some nice student testimonial letters in the packet today, and I appreciate that. It's nice to always hear from students. And there's quite a few testimonials in our packet about more plant-based options. Are we looking at that? Is that something that that's my first question. My second question, I'll just get them both off now. I think you had said half a cup of fruit and vegetables are what we're providing our students. Is that, I don't know, it just doesn't seem like that much fruit to me, or vegetable for that matter. Is that like what the federal or state standard is, a half a cup at mealtime of fruit and vegetables, or did I mishear you? So those are my two questions. Thank you, Madam Chair, and thanks for coming in today.
Assistant Commissioner.
And thanks for coming in is to the Assistant Commissioner, not to you, Madam Chair.
Well, I'm glad you're happy that I'm here too. Happy to see you.
Madam Chair, Senator Swedzinski, yes. So in terms of your first question about plant-based options, yes, certainly schools have flexibility within their meal plans to provide dietary specific meals that are eligible for reimbursement. So that could include vegetarian or vegan options, which obviously, as you know, is plant-based proteins becoming more popular. I think we're seeing our vendors that provide food options for districts to purchase and in turn serve to schools a lot more options. For that, we also know that schools can and do provide other dietary specific meals such as gluten-free, dairy-free, maybe religious-specific ones such as halal or kosher meals as well too. So all of those are flexibilities that exist within the program. So if they need to deviate from the general meal pattern in order to meet those dietary restrictions, that's something that's okay within the regulations. We work with schools on how to operationalize that, but they are still eligible for reimbursement. In terms of your question, I'm trying to go through my notes, I believe it was a half a cup of fruits or vegetables for each meal. So if a student, so it's a half a cup of fruit or vegetable required as a part of each reimbursable meal. So if they're doing a breakfast and a lunch, that would be a half a cup in each of those meals.
Senator Gustafson.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for being here today. So just because this is my bill, and I'm very proud of it, and I'm happy to see it's working, I think one of the things that's really nice about it is that this is not a new program. It was just an expansion of something that schools have already been doing. So schools were already providing breakfast and lunch, just not to every child without having a cost to them. So every student in Minnesota has the option to have one breakfast and one lunch, private schools and public schools, and schools can just adjust. What's nice is that this has been, going on now for about a year and a half, and schools can make those adjustments to their food, so they know what they're doing. I trust that schools can make those decisions, and they understand how much, we order too much here, not enough here. I know too, so I'm wearing my bracelet because I got a friendship bracelet from one of my schools for Universal Meals, and they took me on this really good tour to show us all of the things that, these are valid concerns, right? Are we throwing out a bunch of food? Are kids getting enough food? All of these are really good questions. And if you go in and you go to multiple schools in your district and you sort of see it in action, all of a sudden you realize, this is why we trust our schools. They know what they're doing and they are figuring it out. We have a share table at a lot of the White Bear Lake schools that I'm at. They have, especially if they're shelf items and they're non-perishable, they can be shared throughout the day with kids who maybe are a little bit hungrier and wanted something extra, and that was just the share table. They also work with local farms to take some of that food that can't be reused, and they send it off to feed the pigs. So there are lots of ways that our schools are being really resourceful, and I'm really proud to see that the schools in my district are doing such a good job of making sure that this program is a success in our individual communities. But it is good to hear what other schools are doing, and hopefully we can make it even better.
Great. Well, thank you so much for coming in, Assistant Commissioner Corte and Assistant Director of the Government Relations, Rajab. Appreciate you being here today and the work that you're doing on behalf of our students. All right. Next, we have Laura Kullup from Loon Organics, who would like to speak to the farm to table. Farm to schools. If you would just state your name for the record, and then you may begin.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members. My name is Laura Kullup. I am the co-owner and farmer at Loon Organics Vegetable Farm in Hutchinson, Minnesota. I'm also a farm advocate with Minnesota Department of Agriculture. I work with emerging farmers. So thank you for having me speak today. I am here to talk about Farm to School. I have been farming for over 20 years. We have been selling into the Hutchinson, Litchfield, Dassel, Colcado schools for the past 5 years with their Farm to School program. And we have really been so grateful for the opportunity to sell our product locally. We, for the majority of our farming career, have been selling direct market. We've been driving into the Twin Cities, selling through CSA, through Farmers Market, and the ability to have a wholesale market open up for us within 5 miles of our farm where our kids go to school, and to be able to scale up some crops and grow those crops for our local school districts has been a huge benefit and support for our farm, especially as we wanted to be able to really stay local and sell our products locally, and also feed all of our children and their peers in the process. So it really is a win-win. In my work with emerging farmers, I hear from a lot of them that they're very interested in Farm to School. They're very interested in these markets, and it provides an opportunity for them to tackle one of the biggest challenges, which is finding markets for their products as beginning farmers, as emerging farmers, and being able to market locally. So that is something that is an emerging market for them, for these emerging farmers. that I see a lot of potential for. I am also a parent, so I have 2 kids who are in the Hutchinson Public Schools. So just personally, we have benefited from this program. As a family farm, we have to be very thrifty, so having a free school lunch has made a real difference in our family and on our pocketbook. And just an anecdote, we sold some spinach into the schools in the spring. I went into the elementary school to just be there and do kind of some of that education while kids were getting their salad. And my own kindergartner at the time was not that interested in eating spinach at our farm, but when we went into the school, he ate all of his salad, and he said he loved it. And really, the majority of the kids, 90% of the kids there tried the spinach. A lot of them loved it. My son asked me to get the salad dressing recipe so we could take that home and he could try it at home. So it really does expand the variety and palette of foods that kids are eating. It's also not just limited to produce. There is local protein, maple syrup, there is fruit, many, many different types of local farm products. And, for us, we just really love the opportunity that we can open up access to local organic food, and so that all kids at school have better access to local and even organically grown food. So we're increasing the quality and the access to local fresh food to kids without cost being a barrier. Something that we just as farmers can't really do on our own. So universal free school meals do just that. So thank you. I just want to encourage you to continue to think about the impact on local farmers and on, especially in greater Minnesota, on our farm to food connection there, and also emerging farmers and beginning farmers and the impact that this can have as the continued support can open up new markets for farmers like myself and also other emerging farmers. So thank you for the opportunity. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Any questions or comments? Well, thank you for the hard work that you do to provide nutritious ingredients for our communities and our schools. That's really great that, a lot of kids aren't exposed to spinach or some of the other vegetables or fruits that might come from individuals. And so I think this is just a really great opportunity for farmers such as yourself to start growing some of these unique items to get to the schools so that the kids could do it. I was a teacher, and there was another teacher across the hall, and every week he would bring in a unique fruit or vegetable that kids had never seen in their life. And they would talk about it, and they'd talk about the nutrition, where it was grown, how it was grown, and they'd all get a taste. And I think that some of this farm to school produce is going to really open up the eyes of and the appetites of our students. So thanks for doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Next, we have Amy Haig. She's Farm to School Coordinator in Dassel, Cokato, Litchfield, Hutchinson School District. She's coming to us remotely. So Amy, if you are ready, would you please introduce yourself, and you may begin.
Great. Good morning. I'm just going to do the obligatory. Can you hear me? Okay. Our network has been a little wild this week. Good morning, Madam Chair and committee members. Thank you for having me this morning, and thank you for your commitment to learn more about the impact of universal school meals in Minnesota. As mentioned, my name is Amy Haig, and I am the Farm to School Coordinator for Dassel-Cokato, Litchfield, and Hutchinson schools. We have a really unique arrangement. We are 3 independent districts across 3 counties that cooperatively manage our food purchasing. So that translates into our local purchases as well. So I behave as a regional coordinator, kind of connecting the dots and telling the stories of high quality food in our schools. We have been at it for 5 years now, as Laura mentioned, and we have really prioritized sourcing foods from all parts of the tray. So that's what we call like the 5 different groups, the dairy, the grains, the proteins, the fruits, and the vegetables. And we have arrived at that place where we feel we are covering all the tray. And we are serving local food 12 months of the year in our summer feeding program, our school lunch, and our school breakfast program. I'm going to share 3 things that I think this bill has positively, 3 ways that it has positively impacted us. Of course, it has increased our food service participation. It has allowed us to invest in local businesses, and it has allowed us to build trust with our students. First, we have, of course, increased participation. I don't have, participation varies, day by day, depending on what is served. And the numbers at the beginning of this current school year were that we had about a 10 to 12% increase. We had high participation in our districts already, but our increased participation has just allowed us to invest in high quality foods more and more and more. Because of our robust farm to school program, we've seen that 10% increase allows us to invest 10% more in our local partners. It has driven the diversity and quality, of course, of the foods that we've offered. We've been allowed, or this investment allows us to move towards what students really want to see, and they want quality. We realize, I guess, that this is an uphill battle to rebrand and kind of shatter the conception of what school food is to some families. But as everybody gathers in the cafeteria and everybody is happy and comfortable and safe being fed, we've really seen kind of a culture shift in our cafeterias and our kitchens, and that is lovely. Most importantly, I have a farming background as well, and what I think that our farm to school program and then this stability of our fund because of universal school meals has allowed us to invest in local businesses and build a resilient food system. We began our program in 2020. So the bookends right now of our farm to school program are rooted in a moment where the supply chain was completely disrupted. We began farm to school with a will and a commitment to change school food, but it really became a necessity very quickly. And we still find ourselves there in that disruption and are unsure of when it's going to level out and when industry can react to what students and our staff actually want to use. So we are just continuing to go towards the direction of local sourcing. So that is on one end, and then this moment of universal school meals at the other. Both leave us really poised and at a place where we can support the right things for the right reasons for our kids. We are on track this year to hit the $1 million mark in our 3 small districts of local investment. That encompasses over 30 different fruits and vegetables, single source, carton-free milk, so eliminating waste tremendously there. 5 different animals, animal proteins, including turkey and lamb and fish on deck. Flours, cornmeal, dry beans, oats, wild rice, honey, maple syrup, mushrooms. We support hydroponic producers, conventional and organic producers, and really prioritize this commitment to small and mid-sized family farms that prioritize and want to help us make those community connections. Our investment in and leadership around creating this local food system has built a system that can adapt. And what I love about it so much is that students don't want the product that industry thinks we need to buy. Students don't want burritos wrapped in plastic, steamed in their plastic container. We've seen such a shift in how the students eat. And so we are able to respond to their hopes and what nourishes them, which further decreases waste by being responsive to our students. By working directly with our producers, they can also adapt their models to what we know students love.
Ms. Haig? Megan Haig,
Yeah.
we have a long list of testifiers, so I really hate to cut you out because I love what you're saying. But if you'd like to just say a few ending sentences, and
Yeah.
thank you ever so much for the work that you're doing and the innovation that you're doing, and bringing those dollars into your community.
Yeah, I will just land where the trust in our program and what we're offering has shifted dramatically. It has created an ability for students to feel comfortable and know what they can expect moving into the cafeteria. I think that is stability both for our students and their health and their well-being and for our local partners. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. All right, next we have Joan Olson from Prairie Drifter Farm, and she is joining us remotely. If you would state your name, and you may begin.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. It's great to be here, remotely as it is. My name is Joan Olson, and I own and operate Prairie Drifter Farm in Litchfield, Minnesota with my partner, Nick. We have been part of the Farm to School program with the Litchfield, Dassel, Cokato, and Hutchinson districts also since its beginning in 2020. We primarily at that time were a CSA farm and doing a lot of direct sales. We also had some small wholesale accounts to food co-ops. We bring to food shelves as well. The entry into the Farm to School program was really a boon for us. It just happened that at that time, one of our wholesale accounts to a local food co-op really went down, decreased in quantity. And that Farm to School really filled that gap for us and allowed us to have a more predictable sales channel for some of our excess crops. So when you're growing for a CSA, you have a lot of crops that come in and need to be harvested more than once a week. And right from the get-go, the Farm to School program was able to take some of those third, second harvests that we didn't really have a market for otherwise, and they were able to use it really easily in the quantities that we had available. I think what's really unique about our Farm to School program here is Amy is very humble, but she is excellent at her job. She is so fantastic about connecting with schools, connecting with farmers, connecting with families, connecting with students, and she really understands the background of what farmers need and what schools need as well. So we've been really grateful to be part of that program. Just for some hard numbers, in 2024, the Farm to School program was actually 58% of our wholesale sales that year, and that resulted in 12% of our overall sales. And that's a huge number for a small grower. Laura had mentioned this as well as Amy, but for a lot of beginning farmers and small growers, it can be a really hard place to find a reliable market. And the Farm to School is such a reliable and flexible market at the same time. So there might be times when in the summer feeding program, they have a salad bar and they can use literally just 10 pounds of broccoli. And that, as a small grower, you might just have an excess of 10 pounds of broccoli. That sounds really small, but when you add those small sales up, they really result in a great increase in sales. And then along with that, you have the very consistent large sales that happen during the school year with bigger meals being served to many students. So it's really flexible. I think I'm also coming to this hearing as wearing multiple hats. I'm a parent in the school district as well. I have a daughter in a private Catholic school that benefits from the Universal Meal Program, and also a son in the public school. So as a parent, I see that. I love the little calendar that we have stuck in our laundry room, and the kids get to choose their meals for the week. And I love seeing when they have the Farm to School meals highlighted, because I know that some of that's coming from us, but also some of that's coming from our community members and our neighbors. And I just love to see that commitment from the school saying, hey, we believe in you, we're supporting you, we want you to be successful. And I really do highlight that the money that comes into our farm, much of it is spent locally. So it's such a win-win. So the money is coming in, supporting local farmers. That money really gets fed right back into our local community. And I think that's very true of many of those in agriculture around this area. I'm also coming to this with a hat of an educator. I have a teaching license background. And I think one of the first things that we learned as educators is kids cannot learn until their basic needs are met. And one of those basic needs is being well fed. I sub in the schools during the wintertime in the off-farm season, and one of the primary places I sub is actually in the health office where the kids are coming in if they're not feeling well. And I can see the change in those kids who have food offered to them and available to them, even if they don't have it at home. And it may not feel so obvious for those of us who have food at the ready all the time, but there are a lot of students, especially in our rural districts, who are struggling with food access. And I think the fact that our school is saying, hey, we care about you, we want you to come here well fed, we want you to be able to learn, really says a lot to our community. I'm going to add one other hat to the mix here is I also come in as a food safety educator. So I do food safety trainings in the winter for farmers, both with the FSMA, the Food Safety and Modernization Act, and GAPS, Good Agricultural Practices. I think we are really well poised in Minnesota. We have such a strong team around agriculture and food safety as well. And our farmers want to do the right thing and do well and bring good, healthy food. And we are very well poised with education that's very accessible and very inexpensive for farmers so that they can write good food safety plans. They can come to the school with good processes and systems in place to make sure that we're bringing good, healthy, clean food to our kids as well. So again, this program has so many wins all around. I'm just very proud of Minnesota for having put this forward, both as a farmer, a parent, an educator, and a food safety educator. You're just doing excellent work all around. I'm going to pause there, so if there's any questions, you're welcome to ask.
Thank you so much, Ms. Olson. All the hats you're wearing, serving our kids in so many different ways, really, really appreciate that. Any questions or comments? Well, thank you again for Zooming in, and thank you for feeding our children in the way that you do. Take care.
Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
You bet. We are now going to move to the school staff to hear from them. We have Stacy Copen. She's the Director of Nutrition Services for St. Paul Public Schools. And then we'll have Mandy Young, teacher at St. Paul, in the St. Paul Federation of Teachers. If you would like to introduce yourself, and then you can begin.
Thank you. Good morning. Madam Chair, members of the committee, esteemed guests, my name is Stacy Copen, and yes, I am the Director of Nutrition Services at St. Paul Public Schools. I have the privilege of talking today about the firsthand perspective that I have gained from the benefits of the Minnesota Free School Meals for Kids program. And I want to express my very strong support for this program because I can tell you that just over the past year, this has been a major game changer in our education system. So I would like to again share what I have seen and witnessed personally on behalf of students, families, as well as educators across the state of Minnesota. This issue is also very personal to me as well. I was a student on the free lunch program when I was growing up. And even at a young age, I did know that this set me apart from my peers. The older that I grew, the more apparent that situation was to me. And without any really overt incident, I can say that I too felt, intensely ashamed of being in that situation. Humiliating to wait in line for a uniquely colored ticket, to receive a designated meal, or even to sit in the cafeteria with that meal next to my classmates. Like many students, I often skip meals, especially through the high school years, just simply to escape that distress that I was under. And yes, I was hungry. No, I did not put nutrition or health above fitting in. I also did not choose or allow myself to be poor. And that's the situation that so many of our students are still in today. There's some twist of fate, however. I am a registered dietitian advocating for universal access to school meals for all students. So I'm very happy about the opportunity to talk to you today again. And I'll say that as much as I admire the work of everyone from the federal level down to our local school establishments, there have been a lot of advancements in the school lunch program over the past years, but the stigma still remains quite pervasive and relentless when students are treated differently based on their family's income. And it's not only for students that qualify for help with meals, but also, as we know, for students that don't. It's just an extremely complicated situation. A unique and, quite frankly, significant dilemma does exist for families and children, quite frankly, who aren't or weren't lucky enough to qualify for free meals. As a director at St. Paul Public Schools, I have witnessed firsthand a number of families who found themselves just a few dollars over the income guidelines that we had previously used to qualify students for free or reduced price meals. And just really and truly, that is something that will never escape me, is the desperation that I witnessed from parents who were struggling with, making a decision to balance their child's nutritional needs during the day against some really complicated financial struggles at home. These are families that were working hard, and school options were not something they could comfortably afford, yet they were also not poor enough to qualify for assistance. And it is because of that that I say Minnesota Free School Meals for Kids was an absolutely necessary and transformative step in moving Minnesota forward. Minnesota has long recognized that no student should be treated differently because of their ability to pay for a school meal. In fact, previous legislation addressed lunch shaming, which prohibited schools from treating students differently when a student had meal debt. The law required that all students be served the same meals. It prevented schools from stigmatizing students who had unpaid meal balances, and ensured that students who had a meal, that meal cannot be taken away from them once the meal had been served. And while that legislation was an important step forward, it did not really address the root cause of meal debt. It simply dictated what we should do once debt existed. Prior to the beginning of the Minnesota Free School Meals for Kids program, at the end of the school year, at St. Paul Public Schools alone, we had almost $150,000 in unpaid meal debt on the books. And I say that's a clear indication that our community needed help. Minnesota Free School Meals for Kids addressed this gap and ensured that all students, regardless of their financial circumstances, received the meals they needed to learn without the burden of debt, stigma, or bureaucracy. Since the implementation of this program, I think the results speak for themselves. As Jaron Corte had shared earlier, in Minnesota, lunch participation increased by 15%, which is extremely significant, and breakfast skyrocketed by 40%. At St. Paul Public Schools, we had been on the community eligibility provision in most of our buildings, most of our schools, since about 2014. And so our increases were a little bit more modest. It was about 5% at breakfast and 8% at lunch. And that does demonstrate that we had more students participating more regularly, which really just reinforced collectively across our students this healthy and reliable system that we had for food and nutrition as part of their learning day. The program provides more than just meals. I really think it is about equity, dignity, and opportunity. Eliminating shame and stigma for students who have just for too many years have had to face that distress in their past. This also reduces administrative burdens, which allows the staff in our nutrition program to focus on sourcing local foods, by the way, or creating diverse and culturally relevant recipes, to be able to spend our time on that rather than processing paperwork or tracking down parents who perhaps have some debt on their meal account for their students. But most importantly, as I think we've all kind of heard today, and I'll reiterate, is this does create a stable learning environment all the way around for all stakeholders. Governor Walz and the Minnesota legislature do deserve praise for passing this legislation. It was the right thing to do for our students, for our families, and quite frankly, for the state of Minnesota. Providing meals is not a privilege, it is actually a responsibility, and meals are just as necessary as textbooks and buses. So I absolutely admire our ability to be able to allow students to have our support, since they will be carrying the torch in Minnesota. It is our responsibility to support them every way possible. So I urge you to continue supporting this program, and I thank you so much for allowing me to share that experience and perspective today.
Thank you so much for coming in today, and I think that when we bring our own life experiences such as yours into the work that we do, it just makes it all the more meaningful, so thanks so much. And, Senator Umu Verbaden.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to say thank you so much for your work. I'm really proud to represent St. Paul Public Schools in my district, and just wanted to commend y'all for the work that you've been doing to make sure that the meals are really really reflect the diversity of our student body. We have students and families who come from all over the world that make their way to St. Paul Public Schools, and I know you've been so intentional about that being reflected in the menus that we see and engaging the students and families in trying to develop those in the first place. So it's exciting, and I hear you in saying you want to be able to spend your time on doing that kind of creative work rather than having to worry about the funding. So thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you again so much. And next we have Mandy Young. And following that, we'll have Darcy Stubbe, please.
Hi, my name is Mandy Jung, and I'm a representative of St. Paul Federation of Educators, and I'm so excited to be back speaking to you today. I've been teaching since 2016, and I am also a social media influencer with, I have 175,000 followers across various platforms, and I asked them what I should talk to you about and their reflections on the program. So let's start with teachers. Teachers like me are noticing that more students are eating, and I'm noticing fewer of them are asleep throughout the school day, especially in the morning and after lunch. That data obviously is anecdotal, but we're finding that, the teaching after lunch was always a little bit like making your way into Sparta. So it was very nice now to have students who have full bellies and one fewer reason for, the general mayhem of middle school. I teach 7th grade, which will come up again here in a moment. Our behavior teachers are noticing that they are saving money in this program because they are spending less money buying snacks for their students. And I would venture to guess that that is true across the board. Teachers probably should not be spending their own money on their classrooms, but we do because we love our students and we want what's best for them. And this program makes teachers feel better about not doing that because they know that their students will be receiving meals and things to eat throughout the day. I want to echo what Stacy said about those families on the border. The parents that I heard the most from who love the program were parents of families like mine. Growing up, we were the family who made $42 too much to qualify for the free school meal program. And having an extra $42 doesn't mean that we were rich. It just meant we had an extra $42. So the families that I heard the most from are families like that who now have money for their students to do extracurriculars. Or they have, one woman said, I have money to buy strawberries. And that really touched my heart. They're also finding that students are trying new foods, as they talked about in the MDE presentation. And they have students who are coming home saying, can we have sambusas? I had sambusa at school, it's really good. Can we have sambusas? Parents are also finding that they have less stress. It's one less thing they have to worry about. If you're rushing out the door in the morning, you know that your child will have breakfast, you know that your child will have lunch, and that it will be nutritious. So I mentioned that I teach 7th grade, and I teach a leadership class, and I ask the kids, and here's what the kids had to say to you. These are students between the ages of 11 and 13. They really appreciate that they can share food at lunch. They appreciate the opportunity to be generous because they're not operating from a place of scarcity, which is such an amazing gift. They would like more diverse options. They had a lot of complaints because they're 12, but they would like more diverse options. They would like plant-based meals. They would like, at least in our district, for more culturally relevant meals to come back. We actually had a school board member come in and speak to the leadership class because the kids were feeling that the quality and the types of meals had changed in the last year. And the school board member said, yes, we lost our ESSER funding, so we are serving meals that are different from what we served before. And the kids want the pupusas to come back. They want the sambusas to come back. They really enjoy sharing food from their culture with their friends. And Pupusa Day is awesome. Everybody gets super excited. So I know that some people would like to see a lot of hard data about this and see that feeding kids makes test scores go up, or feeding kids makes graduation rates go up, or behavior rates go down. And with the convoluted nature of education, I don't know if we're ever gonna get that data, but it is morally right to feed children. It is morally right to spend our taxpayer money making sure that the kids in Minnesota are fed. To me, as someone who works with children every day, it frankly doesn't matter to me if they score higher on a standardized test. What matters to me is that they grow up nourished, fed, and loved. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a wonderful way to end that, and thank you for the work that you do for your students and on behalf of educators. Appreciate you being here today. Okay, Darcy Stubbe, if you'd like to join us. She is the Director of Nutrition Services for Independent School District 77.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members. I'm Darcy Stieber, Director of Nutrition Services for the Mankato Area Public Schools, and I'm also the Public Policy Chair for the Minnesota School Nutrition Association. I'm honored to speak here today about the successes and the positive impact of Minnesota Free School Meals. As a nutrition director, I've seen firsthand how this program has not only increased student participation in school meals, but has also improved student well-being, academic performance, and family financial stability. Since this program began, school districts have seen on average 40% increase in breakfast participation and 15% increase in lunch participation. These numbers highlight how crucial this program has been in ensuring that students start their day with the nutrition that they need to stay focused, retain information, and perform better in the classroom. Research has shown that students who eat a nutritious breakfast are more likely to score higher on tests, have fewer behavioral issues, and experience improved attendance, all critical factors in academic success. Beyond the classroom, this program has had a significant financial impact on families. With food prices rising, parents have expressed relief knowing that their children are guaranteed 2 balanced meals at school. The money families save is allowing them to allocate more resources towards other necessities like housing, medical care, and quality food at home. This has been especially beneficial for middle-income families who may not have qualified for meal assistance before, but were still struggling to make ends meet. Additionally, free school meals has reduced childhood hunger and food insecurity, which according to Second Harvest Heartland affects 1 in 7 children in Minnesota. Proper nutrition is critical to physical growth, cognitive development, and mental health, and ensuring that all students have access to healthy meals at school plays a vital role in combating these challenges. Students who are well-nourished are less likely to visit the nurse's office for headaches or stomach aches, more likely to be physically active, and have a lower risk of developing chronic diseases later in life. Another crucial benefit of this program is simply being able to walk into the lunchroom, pick up a meal, and enjoy some downtime with friends. This program fosters a more inclusive and supportive school environment where every child has equal access to food they need to succeed. In just the short time, Minnesota Free School Meals has proven to be a game changer for students' health, academic performance, and economic relief for families. This initiative is not just about food, it's about equity, opportunity, and investing in the future of our children. I urge your continued support to ensure that each student, regardless of background, has access to the nutrition they need to learn, grow, and thrive. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And again, I really appreciate the fact that, the kids are the focus here and the work that's being done in your district as well. Sure appreciate it. Thank you for coming and joining us today. And then we have Alex Hustleton. Nice. He is a high school social studies teacher. Please join us. Hello. And when you're ready, are you going to do a presentation or are you just notes?
Oh, these are just my notes.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, then we won't wait for you to plug in.
Would you like me to create a presentation on the spot?
I am sure as a social studies teacher, you can whip one up in no time at all. But why don't you introduce yourself again for us, and then you can begin.
Thank you. Greetings, Chair Kunish and members of the committee. My name is Alex Hazelton. I've been a social studies teacher in Minneapolis Public Schools for 15 years. I now work for my education colleagues and their students as a member lobbyist during this historic legislative session, and I'm lucky to share my experiences with you as a career teacher. You will hear lots of reasons, and you have, why universal school meals is an amazing achievement from many different perspectives today. And I'll list off a few reasons why I like this program, such as hungry kids learn better. My first hour students were more awake and ready to learn when they ate breakfast. I spent less food that I kept in my desk for hungry students. Side note, I used to be able to give away Cliff Bars, like candy bars, before this, and now they're much more discerning and will say, never mind, I'm not that hungry. We eliminated the shame kids feel walking up to the counter not knowing if their parents had enough money to put in their account. And this achievement was more than just what I listed off, though. This government said with actions, schools should not be home to hunger. Schools will not institutionalize shame. This great legislative body passed in 2023 historic legislation to address childhood hunger in the best way it could. What happened in 2020 actually showed us the power of government and what it could do with childhood poverty. Pandemic relief dropped childhood poverty from 1 in 10 to 1 in 20. Yet by 2023, childhood poverty rose to 12.5%, and now in 2024, 16%. That's about the equivalent of Minnesota and Wisconsin's population combined. We're unfortunately in more uncertain times now. What we could do in Minnesota to do our part, though, you all passed legislation that was morally responsive. There will always be critics, and that is a part of democracy. Little story, I was in my master's class on communications, and I proposed a real-life project I was working on, guaranteed 30 minutes of recess for elementary kids, and my professors thought it was too milquetoast. It wasn't controversial enough. And I was like, and here you don't work in Minneapolis public schools. My school district came up with reasons to say why, despite all the social, emotional, benefits of recess, and despite their own self-reported data that students of color and schools with higher concentrations of students with colors, that they had less recess. Despite that pushback, it passed because it made sense. And that's what this legislation was about. It makes sense. I've been saying for years that the state of our schools is a direct reflection of society. How well our schools are doing reflects how well we are taking care of each other. Thanks to the leadership of Representative Sidney Jordan, Senator Gustafson, and this legislative body, we are treating each other just that much better. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for sharing that. And I think most teachers keep that stash of food for their students. Maybe not so much anymore, but I know that I always had a drawer full of granola and different bars, oatmeal. And there were so many times that kids would come into the media center and they'd be really owly or, kind of confrontational. I'm like, are you hungry? And they're like, yeah. And just sending them to the drawer and say, go help yourself to something, and here's some apples or oranges. You can microwave a bowl of oatmeal. Within 15 minutes, it's like one of those hangry commercials where a kid comes in really, out of sorts, and they get a little bit of something in their tummy. They see somebody notices them, that they really care, that they're hungry. Can really change the trajectory of a student and the student's day. So thank you for being one of those people, and all of the other teachers and nutritional supporters that make sure that our kids are being fed. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair.
You bet. All right, next we will go remote with Crystal Fitzsimmons, who is a food research and from the Food Research and Action Center. So if you'd like to introduce yourself, you may begin.
Oh, thank you, Chair Kunish and members of the committee. I appreciate the opportunity to testify today. I'm Crystal Fitzsimmons, interim president for the Food Research and Action Center, which is commonly called FRAC. We are the leading organization working to end poverty-related hunger in the United States, and I'm really proud to have worked at FRAC for over 25 years, with most of that time leading our work to expand access to school meals and the other federal nutrition programs. For many children in the United States, they live in households that struggle to make ends meet. According to data from USDA, 13.8 million children live in food insecure households, and in a country of our size and wealth, that is simply unacceptable. Inflation has also hit families hard in Minnesota and throughout the country. Being able to count on school breakfast and lunch for your children dramatically reduces the pressure that families have on their household food budget. When we made the successful move to Healthy School Meals for All, when it was piloted nationally as part of our nation's response to the pandemic, we gave all students access to nutritious school meals that support their health and learning, reduced stigma, we eliminated unpaid school meal fees, and we helped build a better school environment. Minnesota was one of the 8 states that did not want to go back to pre-pandemic school meal operations, and you all passed a Healthy School Meals for All policy. I really want to congratulate you all for enacting this policy. It has made Minnesota a national leader both in the fight against childhood hunger and in supporting student health and learning. Over 20 additional states have introduced similar legislation and are interested in following your example. The future of school nutrition nationwide is a positive cafeteria environment that does not charge students different prices for the same tray of food. Means testing school meals creates stigma, which reduces participation. And if there is a line drawn between students who qualify for free meals and those who don't, there will always be children in need that fall on the wrong side of that line. In addition to all the education and health benefits Healthy School Meals for All creates, it also creates operational efficiencies for school nutrition departments. Instead of collecting money and dealing with school meal debt, school nutrition professionals can focus on making high quality and appealing meals that students are excited to eat. It is important that Minnesota, along with California, Colorado, Maine, Massachusetts, Michigan, New Mexico, and Vermont, all continue their Healthy School Meals for All policies. Now, more than ever, as families struggle with the high cost of food, Minnesota's students, families, and schools need your Healthy School Meals for All policy. And other states need your policy as an example of what they can and should do. Thank you for showing the rest of the country what is possible when there is the political will to address childhood hunger and support student health and academic success.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning. I appreciate hearing from you. Next, we are going to hear from Dr. Diana Cutts. And she is online, so if you would introduce yourself and you can begin.
Thank you and good morning, Chair Kunish and members of the committee. My name is Diana Cutts. I am a pediatrician and the chair of the pediatrics department at Hennepin Healthcare, where I've been privileged to be a part of the care of many hundreds of children and families for over 30 years. As a clinician, I see patients in our Children's Growth and Nutrition Clinic, caring for children who are not growing well. As a researcher, I am a principal investigator with Children's Health Watch, a national organization that studies the impact of food insecurity and other hardships for children and their families. I'm the parent of 4 adult children and grandmother of 3 perfect children, the oldest of which is a kindergartner who has breakfast and lunch at school with his friends. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today, talking from all those identities about the profound impact of the Free School Meals Program, a program which plays a crucial role in addressing food insecurity by ensuring that all school-aged children in Minnesota have access without stigma to free, nutritious breakfast and lunch. I hope you all had a good breakfast this morning, because research shows that individuals are more likely to have better focus, retain information, and be more positive in their social interactions if they've had breakfast compared to individuals who've skipped breakfast. For school-aged children, the data shows that adequate meals translate into improved academic performance and decreased absences, fewer visits to the nurse's office, and less need for disciplinary action. If we had more time, I'd repeat that last sentence for those of you who may not have had breakfast. The Free School Meals Program bridges critical gaps in access to healthy food across our state, and its positive impact is undeniable. Its continuation allows all children to reap the benefits of the substantial resources dedicated to their education, because their engines to learn are guaranteed to have the fuel needed for maximal learning and socializing power. I have seen firsthand how hunger affects my patients, often creating barriers to their physical health, mental health, and academic success. I've cared for many children with iron deficiency anemia, poor weight gain, and sometimes misdiagnoses of behavioral or attention problems who are simply without adequate and consistent access to healthy food. And I see that the social stressors that create this situation are on the upswing, while the future of food assistance programs to address them are uncertain. Providing children with breakfast and lunch each day is a simple but powerful step. With an infrastructure in place and fully operational toward ensuring children have the foundation for a healthy future, which ensures a better future for all of us. Healthy children are more likely to become healthy adults, and the Free School Meals program is a crucial part of supporting that transition. This is an investment we can take rightful pride in continuing to fully support. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that with you and for taking the time to join us this morning. Any questions or comments? All right. Then I think we will go on to Rachel Stoll, Board President, Advocates for Better Health, and she is joining us remotely as well. If you'd like to introduce yourself, and you may begin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning. Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Rachel Stoll, and I am a community health worker, and I serve as the Board President of Advocates for Better Health. I'm also married to a farmer, and I'm a mom of 2 young children, and I live in rural Winona County. Providing breakfast and lunch at no cost to every child in our state, regardless of if they live in a rural, urban, or suburban setting, is a vital public health strategy that benefits Minnesota families in so many ways. It ensures access and reduces stigma, as we've heard from multiple folks. The Free School Meal Program guarantees that all children, regardless of income, receive healthy meals without shame, and it eliminates financial strain and bureaucratic barriers for families. I would also include it takes away the bureaucratic burden for school districts. It also boosts student success. Well-nourished children are better equipped to focus, learn, and succeed in school. Reliable access to meals improves concentration, academic performance, and well-being. It's also a long-term investment in community health. By preventing hunger-related health and learning issues, we reduce future healthcare costs and help children develop to their full potential. Healthy children grow into healthier, more productive adults, just like the earlier speaker said, and it strengthens our communities for generations. I am here today to strongly support the continuation of the Free School Meal Program in Minnesota. As a community health worker, I helped families navigate essential systems and services to live healthier lives. Many of the participants in the CHW program that I worked in experienced barriers to accessing free school meals before the implementation of this program. Some were on the wrong side of the income cutoff. Some had a difficulty completing the paperwork when they had so much other paperwork to complete for other benefits. And some experienced the stigma of unpaid lunch bills for their kids. As many of you know, stigma can be even more powerful in a small rural community where you might know the lunch lady or she might, go to your church. I have seen firsthand how access to nutrition food directly impacts children's health, development, and overall well-being. I also have a 4-year-old who's in public preschool in Winona. It is such a comfort to me as a mom to know that she will have a healthy breakfast and lunch when she goes to school. Having meals be included as part of her public education takes the load off my mind and one to-do off my very full list. I also want to echo what Mara said earlier about her child eating spinach at school. My 4-year-old is extremely picky at home. She will pretty much only eat granola and yogurt, but at school she's willing to try lots of new things because all of her friends are eating the exact same meal. She will come home and tell me things that she's tried at school that I have tried to give her at home and she won't touch. So I urge you to continue supporting free school meals in Minnesota. I really deeply believe that no child should face the barrier of hunger while trying to learn. Thank you for your time and dedication to Minnesota's children and families.
Appreciate you being here and sharing that with us. Next, we have Kate Lundquist from Anoka Hennepin School District.
Hi there. What a joy to be here today. It's interesting that I'm from the Anoka Hennepin School District. Yes, I am, primarily as a parent and most recently as a substitute teacher. I was laid off from my nonprofit job in December, and now I get to use my teaching degree again. So yes, I'm Kate, and I live in Brooklyn Park. I have 6 children, and I'm in this really crazy prime spot in parenting where I have 6 school-aged kids from kindergarten up to a senior. Feeding my kids is a whole big job, and that does fall on me and my former spouse. However, we cannot tell you enough about how grateful we are for the Universal School Meals Program and what that has saved our family. Obviously, there's the financial aspect. I told Senator Umu verbatim, it's like a car payment for us to pay for school meals. Probably over $5,000 a year is what we had come to expect in paying for our kids to eat. And again, that's our responsibility in a sense, but the way that has alleviated the stress of feeding our kids is so great. This has been a little bit challenging for me. I don't know about anybody else, listening to some of these stories, just as somebody, as a child myself, who wasn't always full. I went hungry a lot, and I had 2 working parents who loved me dearly, and I was hungry. For various insecurities that I had, various things that I was facing, it was just, this program would have benefited me specifically very much growing up. And my own children, I remember getting behind on their payments and my child having to come home with a red X on his hand to say, "Mom, you need to pay the bill." Our kids, if I think about what would keep anybody from the arguments against this, I just think no matter what the incomes are, it's all, these hundreds of thousands of students all have families, and we all have different things happening in the 4 walls of our home. And when they all come to school, I want students to be able to leave that baggage at the door and be able to thrive together collectively and not have to worry about what's happening outside. Oh, that's so sweet, thank you. So like I said, I've been substitute teaching, and it is such a joy each day to bring my lineup of students to the cafeteria and drop them off and say, "Have a good lunch." I have spent 3 days in a 5th grade classroom, and I expressed to them yesterday when they asked, "Ms. Kate, are you going to be back again tomorrow?" I said, "Well, actually, even if your teacher is still ill, I need to be gone tomorrow. I get to go to the state capitol and talk to our lawmakers about really important things like your school lunches and, advocating for them to stay." And one student, his face, they were all so puzzled. What? So if you don't listen to us, listen to the kids. Why would anybody want to take that away? He was so confused. I said, well, hopefully this is just in support of keeping it going. And they said, well, could you just tell them to put some more cinnamon on the cinnamon rolls? Okay, I did it. The kids at Oxbow, I did it. So anyways, these are minors, and we have a great opportunity to meet their needs. I think everybody has said it really well, and I don't think I need to add any more, but thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your story and for picking up that licensure and substituting for it in our schools as well. All right, next we have Sophia Sam. She is coming to us remotely. Is Sophia there? There she is. Ms. Sam, if you're there, would you turn on your camera and you can begin? Otherwise, we'll come back. All right, I think we'll circle back. How about Is Amber here? Nope, I'm not seeing her online. Let's look to the back. Jenna. Jenna Britz, are you there? There she is. If you would like to introduce yourself, and we'd love to hear what you have to share with us.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm here today as a mother of 6 children in the Chisago Lake School District. I want to be able to give my kids the best start of the day. We are a busy family. Between our 6 kids, they're in 4 different schools, ranging from high school down to preschool. And that includes making sure they have the best nutrition so they can learn and grow. And the free school breakfast and lunches have been a huge benefit to our family. Not only taking off the financial burden, but with the rising cost of groceries, it's really great to know they can get a balanced meal twice a day when they're at school. My son, my 6th grader, loves the breakfast so much, he asks me for a ride so he, instead of the bus, so he can have extra time to eat with his friends before school. Second, it gives me a peace of mind because everything's so hectic. We do have breakfast options at home, but I know if we're in a rush, I know they'll get fed at school. And it allows my children to get the extra sleep. If they're feeling tired, they can sleep in and know that they can eat. Or I have one of my kids eats a second breakfast. He eats at home and then eats again at school to make sure he can make it till lunchtime. And I know they're getting the balanced food, whether they eat everything on their plate or half of it. I know they're getting what they need. I have big eaters and I have little eaters. And most importantly, the free school lunches ensure that no child has to go hungry or feel different because of the financial struggles at home. Every student gets the same opportunity to get a good meal, which helps foster that sense of equality and community and belonging when they're at school. And for my family and so many others, free school lunches, it's more than food. It's a source of stability, security, and extra support that they need. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for joining us remotely and sharing your viewpoints on that. And glad to know that your kids are getting the extra support that they need to have a good day at school. And I'm just going to check and see if Sophia is ready to share with us. All right, well, I think what we'll do is we'll move on to Leah Gardner. She is with Hunger Free School Coalition. And you can introduce yourself and begin.
Thank you, Chair Kunish and members of the committee. My name is Leah Gardner, and I am Policy Director at the Food Group and also representing a pretty amazing coalition of business, healthcare leaders, nonprofit and advocacy groups, and education and youth partners in the coalition we call Hunger Free Schools. As I reflect on what to share among all of the amazing testimony that you've already heard, I just want to quickly remind you where we've been. My organization's work on school meals started roughly a decade ago, around the concept that no child should be singled out or shamed for not having money in their school meal account. Schools were struggling, understandably, under financial strain because not all families were able to pay. And as a result, they were doing things occasionally like dumping meals, prohibiting students from attending their own graduation, and more. Parents were going hungry, so they knew their kids would have money in their account. But kids are smart, and they would sometimes pretend not to be hungry because they did not want that financial strain on their parents. Thanks to your leadership, we have come a long way. Our younger students have actually now never known a time where they had to think about whether there was money in their meal account. Our lunchrooms are now the place to be. They're brimming, and everyone belongs. We all know how many students are facing real mental health challenges today, and this is one less thing that they have to worry about. We've heard from teachers about how much better students can focus. We've heard from nutrition staff about how they can now spend their time improving menus, like we've talked about, offering more variety to meet dietary needs, having share tables, all the things that we can do to improve that system. And we've heard from parents, and you heard from some of the best among them. And I do want to note, I think Amber will be coming on Zoom, so hopefully we can circle back to her one more time. But we've heard not just from low-income families, but also from middle-class families, that this is a huge relief. I don't have to tell anyone here, I don't think that the price of food is really high right now. And there's pressures on parents and just the time factor. And free school meals, being able to rely on that for your kids is just a tremendous relief. I've heard that from people of all stripes. Most importantly, we've heard from youth that because of this policy, they feel valued, they feel cared for, they feel invested in, that we're providing them with good food so that they can achieve their full potential and be the leaders for tomorrow. You have more information in your packets from some of the young people who couldn't be here today because they're in school. And I think you'll know from reading it, but I will assure you, their words are their own. They mean it. We're grateful for the chance to share with you today because we know that you have a difficult job of balancing the state budget and carefully considering our investments. And members, this investment is already paying dividends. As a parent, as a person with my own lived experience, as a hunger relief advocate, and as a school board member, I want to thank you for making our schools hunger-free.
Thank you so much, and thanks for the work that you do to ensure that our kids do have those opportunities and access to good food. I'm just going to check and see if Sophia jumps on. Oh, okay. Okay, and Amber is, like Feather, is on her way. But in your packet, as it was mentioned, there are letters actually from students. And I just wanted to acknowledge the students that sent in their viewpoints. Nevaeh from Chisago Lakes High School says, free school lunches can help in many ways. It helps their family save a lot of time, and we all know that time is extremely precious when you have a family on the go. School lunches benefit families because of the financial support that they're able to provide. Free lunch, school lunches also help with nutrition. It says, it makes it very easy for kids to get foods they need in order to be as healthy as possible. And I think this was really great where she mentions that school lunches provide fewer calories than a normal person's meal perhaps. With that being said, school lunches can help with reduce obesity and help get kids at any age the right food values that they need in life to have high enough energy to learn. And so she ends it with, it benefits a ton. So thank you, Nevaeh, for those comments. We also had another student. Dylan is from the Dakota Hills Middle School in Eagan. And one thing that popped out to me in his statement is that we all know how important food is to fuel our bodies. Students have more focus and more ability to learn with proper food in their bodies throughout the day. And the self-awareness that these kids are showing is pretty impressive. And then the last one is from Karsten at Spring Lake Park High School. And again, he points out that the benefit is saving time, saving money, and helps them focus their mind for the school day. And his conclusion states that free school meals are great and valuable to students because it energizes them, it saves time, saves money, and especially helps students focus on school and not their empty tummies or where their next meal is going to come from. And so I really want to say thank you to those students that were able to bring us their viewpoints on this really important issue. Senator Gustafson, I think, let's start with Senator Clark, and then we're going to go to Senator Gustafson.
Thank you, Chair Kunish. And I want to really talk about the time aspect on this and my appreciation on that in terms of how much time it saves parents. I'm a product of a single parent. After my dad died when I was 9, my mom went back to college to get her full-time degree. And it was a lot of scrambling with 4 kids in the house and just figuring out it was survival. And the fact that we had free and reduced lunch at Dover Yoda High School that fortunately Lunch Lady did not shame any of us about. And she was a delight and helped. But it gave us, and it gave my mom the capacity to be able to go back to school and get her job. And so there's a job creation aspect to this for our workforce that is hugely necessary and needed. And so I'm so grateful to Senator Gustafson and Representative Jordan for recognizing this, because it's not just, it's crucial what you said about kids should be loved and have food in their bellies, but it also helped accelerate my mom's return to the workforce. So I'm personally greatly appreciative of this.
Thank you for sharing that, Senator Clark. Senator Gustafson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you, Senator Clark, too, for bringing up some of the economic pieces of that, too. You know, we know the value of it. I'm also one of those, I heard somebody phrase it this way, like border families. You know, I've talked extensively about this. I don't need to go into it again, but we were one of those families, too, and I have 4 kids. So I feel that deeply. But I wish more of our colleagues were still here in this committee today, because I think one of the things that we should remind everybody and celebrate is that this is very popular in our state. More than 70%, and this is a recent poll, right? More than 70% of Minnesota voters, including majorities across every ideological and demographic category, say they approve of the legislature's decision last year to provide free school meals to all students, regardless of income. And that goes for conservative families, the majority of conservatives, majority of senior citizens. 90% support the policy in a lot of the groups that were polled. So I bring that up because I think it's one of those bills where people immediately see the effects of it. It immediately matters to their bottom line. We talked a lot about the economy this last year and people being able to afford groceries. Taking universal school meals away would cost families more money at the grocery store at a time where none of them can afford it. The average family in White Bear Lake saves $1,800 per year. So this isn't just about making sure that we, have a breakfast and a lunch for every kid, private school, public school, can they afford it, can they not? I'm not going to battle with a 6-year-old about something that's completely out of their control, their family's income. They're not in charge of paying bills. They're just going to school, and it'd be really nice if they could have food while they're there so that they can learn. Parents who are struggling to get their kids out the door in the morning and now have one less thing to worry about, and they're saving money too, and their bank accounts look a little bit better because of something that we were able to do. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's around 4% of our education budget. So we can afford this, assuming that federal funding isn't frozen with our National School Lunch Program. But it is important, and it is something that matters to families, whether you're in rural Minnesota, whether you're in the suburbs, whether you're in Minneapolis or St. Paul. This matters to people. They appreciate it. It's directly helping them and their families' budgets, and it's making sure that kids get the food they need to learn. There is no downside to this program. It is a good thing to do, and it is a good use of taxpayer dollars. I'm very, very thankful that it passed. It was a bipartisan bill, so I thank everybody who voted for it and promoted this and supported it. I feel like you should all feel like that we did something really good here. I won't be here forever, but I always think in my mind that I'm comforted by the fact that some of these really good policies that we put forward, and this will always be my favorite, will be the law of the land for as long as I can see, long after I'm gone. And I think it's important that we do more things like this. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator Gustafson. And I remember when you were running for office, you hadn't been elected, and I remember asking you, like, well, what do you want to do? What are you going to do? And you're like, I want to get on education. Like, what are you going to do? And in education, you said, I want to get free lunches for families. And I think the minute you were elected, you were working on it. So thank you for all the good hard work that you did on this. It really is making such a difference. I guess we do have Amber Lightfeather just joining us. Amber, if you'd like to join us, turn your video on and introduce yourself, and you may begin.
Bonjour, I'm Amber Lightfeather, and I'm the American Indian Parent Advisory Committee co-chair for ISD 709 Duluth Public Schools. I'm a parent, and I have testified a few times now trying to get the free school lunches passed, and now that it is passed, I wanted to say that it is an amazing program. It's doing a lot for a lot of the kids in the schools. I hear parents talking about it often. We have about 56% of our kids qualify for free lunches throughout the school district. But with everybody being able to get a free school lunch, the amount of, and breakfast, the amount of kids getting free school or lunch and breakfast has went up incredibly. And I don't even think that they anticipated it whenever it started. I know that they were running out of food at first. I remember whenever they first implemented it, and they were running out of food, so they had to order more and make sure the kids had enough to eat. But my goodness, it's made such a difference. My kids don't have to worry about, Mom, do you have enough money for, school lunches this week? Or, I'm not sure if I want to eat every day, Mom, because I don't want you to worry about having to pay for it, because at one time it was really hard for us to afford school lunches. I had 5 kids in the schools at the same time, and me and my husband have decent jobs, but it was still expensive. And so, this has helped a lot of families, including my own, incredibly.
Well, Chi-Miigwech, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your viewpoint on it. I think we're hearing time and time again the positive effects economically for families. I stopped at the grocery store to pick something up last night, and I needed a head of lettuce, and I think it was $5. And I just think, that head of lettuce is going to be gone just like that. And it does make me worry, how our families are affording to feed themselves and their children well. And it just is really comforting to know that we are able to provide those lunches and breakfasts every morning for those students, and to give some relief to our taxpayers and to the community. So again, Chi-Miigwech. We have Senator Swedzinski that would like to make a comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for this hearing today. It's been very edifying for me. Thank you for a good turnout today to hear all the reasons why this is among the, Senator Gustafson, thank you for among one of the greatest legacies of hopefully the last few sessions, and you in particular, anyways, I didn't know what a social media influencer was, so I had to ask her. During her testimony today, I'd never heard that phrase, and so I feel a little ignorant on that. There was a couple comments made today that really struck me as the beauty of today's testifying was we hear a lot of data in this committee, a lot of data, and some days we need a little bit more anecdotal stuff and what the hearts and the soul and the mind things that our youth and everybody in education goes through. And the one thing that struck a chord with me was the one testifier that said there's less visits to the nurse's office. And who would have ever thought that that would be one of the unintended consequences of free and reduced lunches, that there would be less kids' needs to go to see the nurse. And that was just music to my ears. And all the people that talked about our kids are healthier. And that's what education's supposed to do, is not just feed their minds, but to free their souls and their bellies and their hearts. And it just was a wonderful hearing today. And then the testifier that talked about, in my head, during all the hearings last year on this topic, in my head I pictured a parent at home preparing lunches for like 1 or 2 kids. And because that's what my experience was. And we had a testifier today that had 6 kids. And how in the world did that parent prepare 6 meals with teenage tastes being what they are, and having to prepare 6 different lunches because the one kid won't eat green peas and the other kid won't eat raspberry? And I'd never thought of that until today, the less stress and the less burden we placed upon so many households in Minnesota by having this bill become law. And lastly, a testifier said, and this really caused a visual image for me that I have to share. She said the lunchroom is now the place to be. And for me, I loved that. I'd love to see lunchroom-free cell phones as well come out of this, because maybe it could be the place where hundreds of kids gather every day and they don't look at technology, they look at each other's in the eyes. But the visual image I had during that person's testimony was, in my 33 years in the schools, I think the saddest thing any adult ever had to see was that kid that ate by themselves at lunch. And to walk through the lunchroom and see that one table with that one child, and you'd like to think, well, his friends haven't shown up yet, or her friends haven't shown up yet, but there's no friends gonna show up. And occasionally you saw that one kid get up from that table with all their friends and go sit with that kid that was sitting by themselves. I don't know how we raise members of our species to have that in them as a young child, the wherewithal to know that kid over there sits by themselves every single day by themselves. And today I'm gonna go sit with that kid and interact with a member of my species that has no friends in this building. And I don't know what we can ever do. Maybe that's our next bill, is try to legislate that no child ever sits by themselves in the lunchroom. But human nature being what it is, I don't know if we can do anything about it. But that was my visual imagery in my head while that one person was testifying about the lunchroom is now the place to be. And Madam Chair, just what a wonderful hearing this was today for the emotional roller coaster and that it provided me today. And thank you.
Well, we always appreciate, those learning moments, and it looks like you learned a little bit more about social media today. Yeah, and influencing, so we're never too old to learn, right? Right. All right, Senator Umu Verbaden, you wanted to make a comment.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I really appreciated this hearing today. And I'm glad that we got to hear from our schools and parents and students, but I really appreciated the farm to school section as well. I had a chance to visit Roseville area schools, one of our elementary schools last year, that for one of their farm to school days. And Good Acre is an amazing food hub that is also in my district, just down the street from them. So they were able to partner. We had bison tacos, so I think that was a new food for some of our students to try. Everyone really loved it. And it's just such a win-win, right? Where we are feeding our kids and we're supporting, our local farmers and supporting our business owners. So I think it's great. I also just am really grateful to my friend Kate for coming to testify, who has really been supported by this bill. Can't thank you enough for your work on this, Senator Gustafson. It's truly life-changing, and like she said, is a car payment a year for her family. So this is great, and Kate told us, why would anyone want to take this away? So I know we're going to continue to support this. We have to be mindful of these cuts that are coming from the federal government. And, I'm worried about the impact to our schools and the impact to universal meals. But we've heard today how important that is and how committed I think we are to making sure we continue to feed our students. So thank you.
Thanks, and I think it really is important that we do a little bit of a shout out to those farm to school providers. I also sit on the Ag Committee, and we hear a lot from our emerging farmers about how every little account that they have makes a difference in their ability to continue to farm and exist in the lifestyle that they have chosen. But the benefits to our students, I remember growing up in a little, it was kind of like a country town, and the farmers provided a lot of the food directly to the school, and it wasn't just the food that they provided, but their wives and the grandmas would come in and be the school cooks. And so when we look at how this actually contributes to so many different areas within a community, it is absolutely one of those issues, or one of the things that we will continue to work on. And I know yesterday we heard from a superintendent that we were perhaps investing too much money in feeding our students and not enough in reading. But if we are not feeding our children and feeding their bodies and their minds and their brains and their muscles and their whole body, they're not going to learn anyway. And we have to look at the whole body, the total student, when it comes to making sure that they have all those resources to learn and to thrive. So thank you all to those who testified. Is there anyone else that would like to make another comment? Anybody in the audience? All right. Well, just our final announcements. Next Tuesday, we will have a hearing to update us on some of the apprenticeship and teacher licensure programs that we funded over the last couple of weeks. I think there's a chance that we will not be meeting next Wednesday, but we will for sure meet next Thursday. It's Library Day, so I absolutely do not want to miss that one. And no hearing this coming Thursday. And so with that, we are adjourned.